It looks so, it's like green.
I finally have in Buffalo what I have not had in months since I hit the road.
No, he's really gonna have a headache.
An accomplice.
Oh, God, no. Smell my fingers. No.
I have no better partner in urban exploring crime. And while Buffalo is on 0 bucket list trips for most people, we're going to give you the Misfits tour, so buckle up, kids.
You light a candle for something that you're praying for.
Now, because Allison is a born and bred Catholic, we're going to go say hi to God first and apologize in advance for all the trespassing laws we're about to break.
She prayed on behalf of Dewey that I don't kill him when I get home.
What was this? Who did this? Dewey, are you sorry? Are you sorry? No, you're not. Okay.
Catholic churches tend to be glorious in both size and price tag, but Our Lady of Victory Basilica is in a league of her own. The only thing more captivating than her architecture is the stone-by-stone story of how she was built. For that, we have to go back to 1842, when Nelson Baker was born in Buffalo. He became a successful businessman, but something was missing, and it wasn't until he took an extended soul-searching trip that he gave up everything to enter the priesthood, promising to forever honor the Virgin Mary in all his work. That includes saving countless little lives. You see, at the time, Buffalo was a struggling city. Unable to feed more mouths, families were throwing their babies into the river. Father Baker built houses and programs for the unwed mothers and the unwanted children. The rest of his resume would have easily put him in history books, but at 74 years old, Father Baker was just getting started. He was heaven-bent on building a shrine to the Virgin Mary, who he devoted his entire life to. When his church caught on fire, he ordered only minimal repairs. No sense in full restoration. He had bigger plans. A plan that in a few short years would become Our Lady of Victory Basilica. He had the charred church dismantled and announced the construction of a new one whose grandeur and cost defied all logic, since Father Baker had not a cent saved for it. But I guess if the Blessed Mother's got your back, you're not worried about contractor bills. Some people would call that insanity. Others call that faith. There was no GoFundMe and no online merch to sell back then, so Father Baker started writing.
As you're walking around the church, you will see all these little cups and boxes and really collection bins for donations to support the many, many projects that this church is involved in. I didn't know this, but Father Baker is actually credited with starting the direct mail system. Now, we don't get that so much anymore, but at one time, you probably remember, you'd get unsolicited requests for money or purchase in your mailbox, direct mail. Well, he believed that it was a lot more effective to get just the change from millions of people than have just a few donors. So he sent out all these mailings all over the country, if not the world, asking people just 25 cents. That's all I need. And while taking a look at what he built, I'd say his little direct mailing startup was a bit successful.
Only the finest materials and only the very best craftsmen were hired. Mary's shrine is encased with twists of extremely rare red marble. Above her, the second largest dome in the U.S. at the time, and around her, about 2,000 gazing angel faces, each of whose unique features were replicated after each of the orphans living at the church. By Christmas 1925, the shrine of Our Lady of Victory was complete. Father Baker's thank you gift to Mary fulfilled, and all of it paid in full. Now let's do a little math, just like those completely fake HGTV shows. 165-foot-high copper dome plus 4 18-feet-tall copper angels, custom murals, stained glass windows, complete white marble exterior, 46 other kinds of Italian marble everywhere else. Cost $2 million in the 20s. Adjust for inflation, today's price tag, nearly $30 million. And even if you had the money to pull it off, you couldn't, because the number of extremely high-skilled craftsmen to do the work is rarer than the dollar bills to hire them. The Basilica would not grant me an interview because, quote, they do not support the commercial interests of others, which is kind of ironic, coming from a Carrara marble castle with a gift shop. But I digress. Catholics love all their rules. What I will never forget about this place is not its profound beauty. It's the moment Allison whispered up towards heaven, "Casey, I think I have my thong on backwards." After seeking divine intervention for both her misaligned butt floss and mischievous behavior, we're ready to find some trouble that would make going to confession necessary.
Allison stopped at the gift shop to get some merch. Why did we get this?
Well, if you refer to... Oh, no, this one's even better. Page 8. Prayer Against Trafficking Witches. No, I think... Which one was more appropriate for you? Removing demonic influence specifically. I was thinking, in case I would need this with traveling with you, if I needed to reference this to take care of some sexual perversions.
We would never do that on this channel.
Adultery, confusion, procrastination, self-hatred, isolation, paranoia, and all sorts of things. So I feel like this could be a...
Also the description of my YouTube channel right there.
You think buffalo, you probably think wings. Very few, if any people, think silos. But about 100 years ago, Buffalo was the world's largest grain port. These concrete giants are a testament to the little morsels that built Buffalo. At the time, Midwest agriculture was booming, but grains had to make a long trip all the way to New Orleans, then up and out and all over the place to get to market. When the Erie Canal opened and Buffalo its westernmost end, the grain industry changed forever. Grain came across the Great Lakes to Buffalo, stored inside these skyscraper grain elevators, and later transported by canal boat to big East Coast cities. With the expansion of on-the-road shipping and railroads, the grain elevators ultimately fell out of favor. Today they're accessible by boat tour, and with plans to turn these into apartments, breweries, and God knows what else. If you want to see history unhipstered, go now. Stand at the footings and marvel at an era when gluten was king and people weren't dying from it in the streets from a sudden, likely fabricated, mostly marketing-induced allergy to it. Enjoy the delightful smell. Here you'll find General Mills factory. Our tour guide used to work there and can sniff the air and tell you what cereal they're making that hour. We hit Cheerios on the way in, Lucky Charms on the way out. Unlike most other cities I've been to, Buffalo has fully embraced the rusty carcasses of their past, leaving us few illegal opportunities. Very rarely the pumping station's doors open and I just happen to be here at the right time. These gargantuan 5-story high steam pumps pushed water into the city of Buffalo in the early 1900s. You don't have to be a steam pump fan to appreciate this place. This is a utility building, never intended for the public to see, and yet still built with colorful tile, arched windows, and decorative lighting. Our entire trajectory is plotted around getting into Buffalo's Central Terminal train station. We easily broke in through the back, but still paid for the tour later on, with the promise that we'd see rarely seen corners of this Art Deco stunner that once saw about 10,000 passengers pass through its door every day. The last train departed here in 1979, and after a series of owners and scrap jobs, it's but a skeleton. So you can imagine how utterly ticked off we were when it was announced that no photos and no video were allowed inside. See, this is what you get for following the rules. More rules. We can only assume that what's inside is just so spectacular that they just can't let the general public know. Here's what's inside. Foam recreations of the terminals and a tour that gives you about a 50-foot radius to walk in. We have been robbed. And so kicks off a chain of bad behavior events. Feeling unhinged, we swung over to the Richard Olmstead complex. Translation: insane asylum. When you travel around the Northeast, you can find some really amazing lunatic castles. I don't know what it is about this part of the country, but when they build insane asylums, they go big. Interesting about these buildings is that, when you look at the scope and the size of them and you're like, my God, were there that many crazy trains in this area? You didn't have to be mentally ill to get put in here. You could do something like, I don't know, talk back to your husband or look at a man with side eye, not side boob, side eye. Two different things. They also don't allow photos on their tours, but said nothing about flying aircraft overhead. Take a good look, because now this is all being destroyed. Turned into a boutique hotel. I tried to scooch Falcor in close for a shot of the forbidden, but we saw a police car that looked like it might want to learn how to fly a drone or something like that, and as much as I would have loved to give a lesson, we suddenly really have to get going. Allison and I covered miles of territory in just a few days, and she really is my partner in crime for all my crazy ideas. Like making a public spectacle out of the local McGann funeral home. Allison, how do you say it? McGann? McGann funeral home. McGann funeral home. McGann. Say it, break it down. McGann funeral home. McGann funeral home. If that's not funny, you don't know what funny is. Shit writes itself. We tried to break into the iconic and crumbling Bethlehem Steel complex that in its heyday employed about 30,000 Buffalo residents. Our adventures stopped the first time a U.S. Border Patrol car flew by. Don't let the lack of fence fool you. Border Patrol doesn't ask questions, you just pass go and collect a criminal record. Of the few standing relics, one is actually inhabited, and sensing our disappointment, the managers there gave us the grand tour of their factory that was once the train depot for the entire steel operation. While Allison was busy flirting with an employee, I got to go and crawl up into the original ceiling crane to see how Bethlehem Steel once looked from up above. The Wonder Bread factory was our last stop. There was plenty of no trespassing signs on the bottom floor, but not on the second. And someone left a rope here which just screams, "Welcome, Casey Roman." I could have gone in, but Allison had flip-flops on, and it's not nearly as much of an adventure if your sidekick isn't with you. Which is why I don't have a favorite place or photo from Buffalo. What made this part of my trip so special was having my friend here to experience it with. Travel will change how you see the world, and it will make you a better person, but ultimately, it's the people back home who know you best and love you despite all your many, many, many flaws, who are the true highlights of life. She hasn't even left yet, and I'm already homesick for our weekend outings full of foul language and misbehaving. So before I put her on the plane for Wilmington, We'll just have one last lapse of judgment together. Allison's brother-in-law has a terrible headache and has been stuck in bed.
Oh, yeah.
Stealing her mother's minivan, we were off on a humanitarian mission
We'll just repurpose this.
to find Stephen an emotional support yard animal.
Can we just take the horse?
This majestic beast would later be named Beefy by his little girls because Casey was too hard to pronounce.
We have to have it, obviously.
Oh, it's peeing on me. I can't.
Just put the seat down.
I don't know how to do that.
Yeah. There's gotta be a...
Oh, ow! Fuck.
Oh, good. Well, quick. Load it in. Load it in.
It's gonna get on the upholstery though.
We'll drain it.
What if you just drive down the road with the hatch open and just hang on to it?
Okay. Not legal. Pay attention! Get your eyes on the road. I wish this motorcyclist would stop following us, so it doesn't matter where we put it. Oh, it's tripping. We're gonna play on it in the front yard until he comes outside. What? This will cheer him up.
It doesn't even work right.
She can. Oh, ew. It's wet.
Yeah.
Jaden! Jaden!
Who is it?
We got you something!
Tom, we got it from the salvage spot.
It's an antique! Oh, it stayed here. Oh, it's awesome! You're gonna love it! Alright, well, our work here is done. Alright, you're welcome.